Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome back. It's Mia, and today we are here to discuss She-Hulk episode 9, the finale. And if you've noticed, some things are different. I'm back home. Yeah, finally. And also, this is not a Mandela effect. I do have new glasses. They just look slightly different from my old ones, but also slightly the same. So do not be alarmed. It's still the same old Mia, just a new air of glasses because I kind of broke my other ones before I went home. Or rather, while I was still at home, before I went to Germany, all I did was I kind of broke the little padding here and I was like, should I wear these glasses or should I get my old ones and just suffer through it? And I suffered through not having a nose padding on this side of my face for like 6 weeks. It was rough. I had to come back and change into these immediately. And so I kind of like these. I've had these for quite a while. I just never put them on. So here we go. Anyway, yeah, my flight was yesterday. I had been up for an insanely long amount of time from, it was like I woke up at 5:30 Germany time, flight was at 11:30, and then timey-wimey stuff happens when you're going to America, so I like fell asleep at 6:30 Midwestern time, and I've just been all kinds of confused and discombobulated. But here I am, ready to talk to you about She-Hulk, because I wanted to do that. Before I crash and burn tonight, I want to talk to you all about She-Hulk, because it's the finale, and I'm a day late, but don't accuse me of that. Anyway, let's finally get into this, because this was wow. If I can summarize this finale and summarize this series, I would say this is how it's done. I had to give this an A+. I had to give it a standing ovation. On top of closing with the Missy Elliott "We Run This" song, just so perfect. And what I think was perfect about this is, you guys know how I am after viewing three Marvel series this year, is I've just seen time and time again that they always have a beautiful penultimate episode. They're ready to tell this final story. They're ready to wrap it up. They leave it at a beautiful kind of crescendo. And then something happens where it's like they have to tack on in this last episode a CGI battle or a messy fight or something like that, where it just comes like completely out of left field, and you're like, why did this just happen? We were telling this beautiful story, but now we've got to have action and punching. And I think we've gotten to the point with superhero content as a whole where it's like we don't always have to have that anymore. We've got so much content and so many stories to tell that it doesn't always have to end up in this big CGI battle. And so I'm like, I think the fourth wall breaking was a gift that She-Hulk had, and they used it perfectly. That was like their final move, their ultimate move, and they used it. And so I like how they were able to, I guess essentially, yeah, they broke the fourth wall and said, hey, we don't really need all of this stuff, right? We don't really need this big battle. We don't really need, you know, this whole resolution about Todd, which I did say if it was going to be anybody, it was going to be Todd. I really hate that slimy looking guy, and I was right. But also at the end of the day, while we were having this whole conversation about She-Hulk, I'm like, really, this whole Hulk King thing is kind of in the background anyway, kind of like how I felt with Miss Marvel, because it's like just the whole adventures of Jen, or just the whole adventures of Kamala, right? It's like that is what we're here for. That's what I'm enjoying. And so we can just have like some action here and there, but it doesn't always have to amount to this grand scheme. So it's like, yeah, you could maybe make an argument like, oh, they just kind of threw the Hulk King thing in the trash. They didn't really want that storyline. They kind of just said, forget about it. But I feel like that wasn't really the point. I feel like they did use that gift. They did use that tool of being able to break the fourth wall to say, well, you know, what we're really trying to do in the grand scheme of things is kind of be, I guess, meta in the sense that we can kind of say, hey, let's just get right back to task. I'm going way off script here. It's still the same points, but yeah, so anyway, like when I was watching the end scene happen, you know, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, so it was Todd, you know, it was him. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the Abomination is here. And then it was like, Titania, what is she doing here, you know, just for the heck of it. And then the Hulk bursts in and I'm like, oh, who is he with? And so I like that they were also making fun of that, kind of like, it's literally like the whole, and then Deadpool walks in. So at first I was like, oh, are they just trying to, because I knew, again, this is a little self-aware, so I was like, are they just kind of making fun of how like silly these comic book crossovers can be, where you just got characters coming from all over, and so I was like, I like that the whole absurdity of this just circus amalgamation of characters was what caused her to realize, like, hey, this whole thing is distracting from my story, and I have something to say about it. So then comes the scene, right, where it's like things start to get really crazy, and you're like back on the Disney homepage or Disney Plus, but you didn't really do it, and you're like, what's going on here? And so she punches a hole out in one of the little blocks, and I thought what was happening was she was going into another movie. It would look like Shang-Chi, and I was like, oh, is she gonna like insert herself into a better movie or something? And then you see her, she's like on a set, and I'm like, what's going on? And then she's like walking literally, out on Walt Disney Studios property. And I thought that was kind of cute as well. And then she's like bursting into the writer's room, like, what's going on? What are you doing? She's like, why are you writing all this stuff? And they're like, oh, well, it has to happen. This is what people want, and blah, blah, blah. And so then I was like, oh geez, they're talking about me, talking about all these things that the fans want, or not just me, us collectively as we sit down and talk about these things. Talking about all these wish lists of things you want to see, and talking about, how many times should Deadpool walk in, all those sorts of things. So I thought that was quite funny. Then they have this whole thing about Kevin, right? They're like, oh, well, we just get it from Kevin. And she's like, well, have any of you talked to Kevin? And they're like, nobody's actually talked to Kevin. It's, which is weird, because I've interviewed a couple of people who have talked about Kevin. I have never seen Kevin personally myself, so I'm inclined to believe that the entirety of the MCU is actually written by an algorithm bot. I'm kidding there, but I would like to see Kevin Feige in person one day. Till then, this is my new theory. But yeah, it is kind of like, as I was saying, all of these shows have been so formulaic. It's like, we gotta tack this on at the end, we gotta have this character show, we gotta da-da-da-da. And so, again, for them to just address that, break the fourth wall, and then just have her go totally off the rails and be like, well, I want to write things my way. I love it. I cannot be mad. I can't be mad for them experimenting with this. And it's a comedy, so it's like, yeah, why not, make her change everything, make her swap everything, make her see, all of the MCU from her point of view. It's like, so as I was thinking, I was like, this is kind of just like the Honest trailer or the pitch meeting of the MCU. I just loved it. They were able to make fun of themselves kind of being a little formulaic recently. Not all the content is cut and copy the same, but it's kind of like the more you see it, the more you start to see the patterns and say, okay, we want something new. And then also the other jab about, creating near perfect content. That was, kind of funny for them to admit and be self-aware about as well. Because the Eternals does exist. It's out there. And yeah. So yeah, I think there were also just some random things that I just love throughout this episode as well. Kind of like in the beginning, when I realized that they were doing the old school Hulk, Lou Ferrigno opening, I was like, it took me a second. I was like, why are we doing this? And I was like, oh, side by side. I love that. Also, her breaking into Marvel Studios and then going down the hallway, just kind of replicating that Black Widow Iron Man 2 scene where Natasha's kicking butt. I like that. That was a wonderful touch. What else? Her talking about, wanting the X-Men. It just gets so wrapped up in self-aware and meta. And also, I couldn't help but laugh, her talking about the things that she smashes, and then just her little look at the camera. I absolutely love that. And speaking of which, I love the whole end scene, bringing Daredevil into the fight, and oh drat, did I miss it? It just was so comical. And but most importantly, just even having him at the end, having him meet the family at the barbecue or whatever, the picnic they were having. I just thought it was really cute, and like I said in the last episode, I need to see more of them, and I'm glad that Daredevil showed up again. I got more Daredevil than I bargained for, so I'm happy. So final thoughts, of course there's this whole open door left open about what happened with Bruce Banner. We know he went off to Sakaar because something happened, and all of a sudden he comes to the family picnic with a son named Scar. I was looking into Reddit, there's some, I don't know. I'm like, this, like Jen said it perfectly. This is her show. But of course, Kevin Kevin has to have his way sometime. So we did have to have the whole son plot put in there to set up something eventually. You know, people are deciding between Planet Hulk or World War Hulk. So many tongue twisters today. And then someone was like, well, they already did Planet Hulk and Ragnarok. And listen, to me, what it looks like is that, of course, I've seen this trend of them wanting to have younger Avengers. So by giving, you know, the Hulk this son, I'm like, okay, we don't necessarily have Hulkling, but this could be, you know, if you want a young Hulk, now you've got the Hulk son. Unless they do actually want to do the legit Hulkling for young Avengers, then sure, they can do that. I don't have any opinions one way or the other. But oh, they might also have a Hulk movie. They teased that. I guess, you know, Hulk is still alive, so he can do whatever he wants. I guess this is how you feel like after, what, like 12 or so years of the MCU, you're just like, yeah, sure, let's hear it. But yeah, it begs the question, what was Hulk doing over there in Sakaar? Because he was just his Hulk form, it wasn't Banner. So it's like, did Hulk have like a lover or something? It's like that whole Palpatine debate all over again. Or it's like, you know, maybe his blood spilled open on someone that had close blood related to him. So many questions and not enough answers. I'm also wondering, like, when She-Hulk does get introduced to the greater MCU, if that is to happen, you know, will she still possess her fourth wall breaking abilities? Like, she literally said one of her powers is smashing, you know, these fourth walls here. So if they can use that again in the future, that would be cool. Second season of She-Hulk, I think obviously they can do that, but you know, who knows if they're gonna have that bleed over. And then my other concern is literally, is the MCU gonna learn from this lesson? You know, the She-Hulk writers so strongly stuck it to the man and said, we're not gonna abide by your formulaic AI-like approaches, and we're gonna write our own ending. So I'm wondering, like, legitimately, in these next coming like series, will we finally see some toned down finales, a little more even? Like, if it calls for action, sure, but you know, if it calls for more character development in the series, I hope that they can do that. So it might take a couple of tries to see what ends up happening. But I'd be interested to see where this goes as a result of She-Hulk just absolutely breaking new ground. So I'm definitely gonna leave it there. I need a nap. I need to ground myself in reality because I'm still kind of loopy from being on my flight. But yeah, to me, this series was absolutely perfect. I think they did everything right from beginning to end. It was entertaining, it was funny, they've had wonderful character arcs, wonderful plot arcs, and to top it all off, it was self-aware, so I gotta give it bonus points for that. So 10 out of 10, A+. I absolutely loved this, and so I would love to hear what you all thought about this finale. To me, again, it was just perfect. I'm so happy. So yeah, it's kind of weird. I believe this is the last MCU series of 2022. I've already reviewed Werewolf by Night. You can check out my thoughts in the video here. We'll have the Guardians holiday special coming up and Wakanda Forever to review, but I think that's the last series. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've done my research, but yeah, if not, well, that's awesome. We did it. We made it to the end of this series, but that's, you know, there's still more Marvel content to come, so do not you fear. We're gonna close this year out with a lot more Marvel to come. Aren't you excited for that? Anyway, yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe for more, and I hope you're watching House of the Dragon, because we're wrapping up that series too. It's a good one. You gotta watch it. That will be wrapping up next week, so it's gonna be exciting. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.